Hey, we got a great show lined up for you today. Talking with Navy veteran Joe Evangelisti, a high performance coach and entrepreneur. So, Joe runs three successful businesses in digital marketing, wholesale real estate, and self storage. Some of the great topics that we're going to talk about today are building a business that fits your lifestyle, putting together great teams, developing a winning culture in your business, benefits of hiring coaches and turning to mentors, and making the mindset shift to become fearless. Joe, we got a lot of great things to talk about, but before we get to all that, take us back. Tell us about what you did in the Navy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good list. I like it there, Joe. Thanks for having me on as well. So my background, Joe, is I've been in construction my whole life. I grew up as a son of a drywall contractor turned general contractor builder, and so I've been on job sites and sweeping up and learning how to do manual labor and hard work, and putting in an honest day's work for my whole entire childhood. Almost always had either a side job, and nights and weekends job, or something like that, construction related.
Mm-hmm.
And when I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to serve our country, but I just didn't know in what capacity. I'm a construction guy. How do I do this? So I was lucky enough to run into a reservist senior chief who said, who was a SeaBee. And he says, you can be a builder in the Navy. You can go do construction in the Navy. And I was like, how do you do that on a boat? We're going to ship and build stuff. He says, no, he goes, the US Navy SeaBees they go everywhere by air. They work on land. They build, they're physical builders. And so it was super intriguing to me to go after that line of that rating. And it wasn't easy. At first I got into the recruit recruiting station and MEPS and all that, and they were trying to talk me into being everything else except for a CB, because it's a pretty small subset of folks in that community. But I didn't take no for an answer, and I kind of stood my ground and effectively became a builder in the US Navy back in a long time ago. And so spent 6 years working for the US Navy SeaBees, and went all over the planet, was stationed in all kinds of different places, got to go to Camp David, meet a couple presidents, as well as, do some, not that Camp David wasn't tough, but also do some really tough tours overseas, and, go out and deploy and do construction. And I really wrapped it up in one of my last deployments was working for US Centcom in Qatar during our deployment as we were invading Baghdad.
Mm-hmm.
My team and I were building out US Centcom for General Franks and his team, and all the generals and the higher ups out there that were in charge of leading the forces into Baghdad, into the charge there. So I wouldn't change it for the world. I got tons of experience, taught me tons of discipline, a lot about leadership, and a lot about just becoming a little bit more humble. Because I think when we're all young, right, we want to go out there and just kick ass and take names. And I think a lot of us need to dial that back a little bit. So it really did prepare me for life, and it prepared me for change.
So 6 years in the Navy, as you're on the way out, had you planned far ahead and what your transition was going to look like, and your plans for the future, and where did this entrepreneurial bug come from?
Yeah, no, it's funny. You're kind of taking me back because it's been a while. But when I was getting out, I had this mindset of, you're 6 years in as a CB, like 5 years in a couple months, because of a C school and advanced schooling. They kind of extend you. And, at that level, it was like, if I re-up for 4 more years, which is what they're expecting me to do, my mindset was, if I'm doing 10, I'm doing 20, right? I'm going to stay in, I'm going to retire. And so I distinctly remember having this kind of back and forth, and, because I was a lifer, man. I loved it. It was my favorite job I ever had. And, I really enjoyed it. And, I got a call from a couple of my buddies who actually got out earlier because of our security clearances, and because of having the background in Camp David. There's a lot of contractors back then, especially during the middle, the war was starting to heat up. And so I got an offer from Kellogg Brown and Root, which was a subsidiary of Halliburton. And, they said, hey, here's the offer, start as soon as you come out. We'll give you a week to get here, and we'll relocate you. We'll pay for this. We'll pay for that. And as a young kid, I mean, they offered me way more money than I ever expected to make. I mean, probably double what I was making in the military at the time. And to be a project manager. And so I took advantage of that opportunity. I took advantage of that job, and I went and did it. But, nobody in my chain of command was happy. They looked at me as like, the guy who was going to, accelerate and do great things. And So I distinctly remember my XO sitting me down, and he brought me to his office and sat me down, and he was like, "What the hell are you thinking? You're going to throw away this career. You're doing all these incredible things. Like,
Yeah.
like we're going to make you into something because of the trajectory you're on."
Yeah.
And then I told him what I was making, and he was like, "Yeah, I'd take that job too. Good luck." Right. It was like, so, it was a tumultuous time. It was tough. It was really hard to kind of let go and make that transition. But at the back of my mind, I knew that, I would take the experiences that I learned, and I would use those opportunities to help me become a better person, in the civilian life as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how long were you doing the KBR contractor stuff? And ultimately, where did this whole this whole entrepreneurial thing come from?
Yeah, so I was down at the Defense Intelligence Agency in Bowling Air Force Base in DC, and a dream job. I mean, literally a dream job. I was working hardly any hours a day because of the schedule that they had me on and who I was in charge of, and I was making great money, and I was going to school pretty much full time, and getting MGI to pay for it, and KBR was subsidizing other costs and stuff like that. So I was just living the life, but I met my wife. She was from Jersey. She comes down, moves down to DC. And I've always had this joke that her umbilical cord has never been cut. It just stretches. Right. So she has to be near her mom any given time. And, we found ourselves nights and weekends, and every weekend. I lived in the nicest part of DC and the coolest opportunity, all kinds of stuff going on around us. But I would get in the car on Friday afternoon. I would drive back to New Jersey and hang out with my in-laws, and they had horses and all this kind of stuff. So, I found myself going back and forth so often that I looked at my wife and I said, "This is nuts. Like we should go back to Jersey, and we should put down roots, because I'm not just going to keep traveling back and forth every weekend." And so ultimately, the KBR thing was kind of short lived. I was there about 2 years. Again, gained some great experience, but ultimately the entrepreneurial bug kept calling me. Go out and do something on your own. Go out and make something of yourself. And I grew up in a world where, if you ask people where wealth comes from, they say, real estate, right? So I had the construction background. I had the ability to build and do whatever I wanted. I just had to learn the aspects of, purchasing and mortgaging and, controlling real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I jumped in 2 feet in probably arguably one of the craziest times ever to get into real estate in 2007. Started flipping houses, thought we were going to make a fortune overnight. And we got pinched. We got stuck in 2008. Stuff started softening.
Yeah.
And instead of flipping those first couple houses, we ended up keeping them. We ended up having to stabilize them, refinance them, put tenants in place. And
Right.
it's really where I learned how to pivot. It's really where I learned that if stuff's not going your way, you got to find a plan B, or you got to, pack up and quit. And we didn't want to quit. We didn't want to pack it up. We wanted to figure out how to scale it. So we kind of fought through that whole thing until fast forward 4 or 5 years from that point. Now I was running multiple businesses. I was a broker. I was a flipper. I was a landlord. I was running a broker's price opinion business. I had a bunch of other side hustles. And, I look back on that time in my life, and I found that I was chasing a lot, Joe. Like I was always looking for, like, what's the next thing? How do I accomplish more? How do I do more? If I put more hours in, maybe I'll be more successful. And, interestingly enough, I was making really, really good money. And, I had like the life that all my friends were like, "Man, you're doing great." They're patting you on the back. But deep down inside, I was kind of falling apart, and I was kind of, overly stressed out, and, pretty much ready to have a mental breakdown from trying to do too many things at once and trying to extend myself. And, I had 2 little girls. I had a wife and 2 dogs and a brand new mortgage. And, I wasn't spending time at home. I wasn't spending time with my kids. I was avoiding, doing anything recreational. I was avoiding taking care of my body and taking care of my health. And I was eating crap, and I wasn't going to the gym. And, it just, it's kind of that moment where I had to make a shift, and now and had to figure out how to create more systems, more processes, better teams, better culture. And, ultimately led me to today, where, I run 4 really, really effective teams, really, really effective companies. And now I like to help people navigate their life and business as well.
That's awesome. That's a great stopping point. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. So hold that thought. We'll start to address that. Hey, we're back talking with Navy veteran Joe Evangelisti, and Mr. High Performance Coach and entrepreneur. Um, Great stuff that you were talking about in the first 10 minutes of bringing us up to speed with what you did in the Navy and getting out. And then, um, like a lot of veterans and even myself, what, when you get out of the military, you feel like a huge load's been lifted and you basically can go do whatever you want now, whenever you feel like it, where you couldn't do that when you were in the military, right? And the problem is it's like a kid in a candy store. You run around, you start eating everything and grabbing everything you possibly can because it's like it's Christmas and I want everything, all the shiny objects. And then before you know it, you're into so many different things and you're so in the business instead of working on the business that you're just in the minutia and you're overloaded and you're not happy and even if you're making money it's not really working for you. So what were some of the significant things that happened and how did you make this shift to get out of the business, stop working in your business and started to work on your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Joe, when I was in that place where in that space where the stress was overloading me and I was trying to figure out what's next, I was doing a lot of, I talked about doing chasing, where I would buy and watch YouTube videos and buy mini courses and try to make things connect. But really, the game changer for me was when I really invested in a high level mentor and a high level coach who had been there, had done that, who really helped me make that transition. And we really, talked long about what I boiled down to calling the 5 roads to victory, right? So the Seabees back in World War II had 5 physical roads to victory that they had planned out in order to create movement for our troops and in order to, stop movement of enemy forces. And so I kind of retook that tagline. I call my 5 roads to victory. These different steps they're universal, Joe. Like so, for example, it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. Doesn't matter where you live. Doesn't matter what kind of business you do. We've really dialed in these 5 things that'll help create the true potential that people seek, and really the things that are limiting people from creating it and achieving that true potential. So I boiled it down to 5 things that I'd love to share with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's hear them.
Yeah. So number one is what we call get your mind right. Right. So we can't have um, any real outcome or real change or real potential until we understand and we believe that we can have it. Right. Like Henry Ford said, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And
Hmm.
so we have to first look back at what are the limiting factors, what's holding you back, what are the limiting stories you might be telling yourself, because so many folks say things like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not educated enough, I don't have enough experience, or whatever the thing is that keeps them in that bubble. And really what those are, they're versions of living in a past life, right? Maybe you had some trauma, maybe you had a tough experience, maybe you got told no one too many times, right? And we start to settle on those thoughts and we start to think, well, this is my definition, this is who I am. And so what we do is I like to look behind the curtain and see, like, what are my clients' limiting beliefs? What are their values? What drives them? What are their standards? And also kind of what are the roadblocks that are keeping you stuck in that story? Because we want to redefine the new story. We want to help you step into who it is that you're meant to be. And Tony Robbins has a great quote on this, and he says, "The past can only affect me if I choose to live there." Right. And so many people, we live with the stories and the impact of our past, and it actually keeps us from creating a better and a brighter future.
Absolutely. And so many of us are caught in that. It takes somebody else to identify it and say, you know what, pull yourself out of that.
Yeah.
And once you realize what it is you've been doing to yourself, then you can move past it.
100%. And some
But
of
it
these
takes
things are
somebody
so
else to
simple,
do
Joe.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the things are so simple. You ask people questions like this and they say to themselves, well, I've never thought about that. Well, it's a
Hmm.
very simple question, but we don't take time to do these things when we're running and gunning, right?
Hmm. Yeah, we're too involved in the minutia of running our business every day.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
All right. Next one.
So number 2 is what I call the plan of attack, right? So just like, again, you were military. We don't just deploy troops. We don't just drop people out of a C5 and say, okay, go figure it out, right? We have a physical plan of attack. We know exactly where we're going, exactly what the outcome is we're trying to create, and exactly how exactly we're going to do that. We reverse engineer it and we build the plan, right? Well, Joe, so many people spend more time. You ask them about their 1 week trip to Mexico, right? They know what plane they're on, what seat they're sitting in, right? What kind of service they're going to get, what transportation they're going to get, what the hotel is going to look like, where the hotel is. Are they going to be facing the ocean front or the poolside, the courtyard, right? Where are they getting reservations? Where are they eating dinner? They know all the details. But when we reflect back and we say, okay, where do you want to go this year in your life? Right? What do you really want to accomplish? What do you want to see done? Right? Most people, it's a fuzzy gray area, and we don't write down the actual plan of attack. How are we
Yeah.
going to go after it? So, again, kind of like the mindset piece, I want to know where's A and where's B, where are you trying to get to? And then I want to figure out how do we collapse that time and how do we collapse that strategy so that we can get there quicker, right? And this is where we call turning decades into days. Figuring out how we can stop procrastinating and stop working off of a to-do list and start working on things that are going to create real outcome based on the purpose and the results that you actually want to seek, right? Or you want to see in your life. And so it's a big change, different than just, basically spelling out a business plan. This is a life plan, right? This is how are we going to get to that outcome, and what outcome do you really want?
Right. All right. Good stuff, man. Number 3.
All right. Number 3. So number 3 is what we call checking your toolkit, right? So the CBs, again, builders, we're going to deploy. I know when I go overseas what I have to build, and I have to bring my tools with me. I literally have a toolkit, right? We used to have boxes of tools we would bring with us, and they would go on the plane and they would deploy with us. So if I got overseas, and CBs have a can-do attitude, no matter what, we're going to get it done. No matter what, we're going to build it. But if I don't have the right tools, right, it might take a little longer. It might be a little bit more difficult. So what I want my clients to do is I want them to check in on what are the people, what are the resources, what are the tools, what are the technologies that you have that are at your disposal right now that you're not utilizing to 100% of their capacity, right? Because so many of us, so many of these tools are either free. It could be as simple as a yellow notepad and a pen and paper, right? And being able to create the opportunity. But we as humans, we're always chasing shiny objects, right? So I have this great CRM that I could use, and someone else says, oh, there's push button millions, buy this thing for $500. Next thing you know, I'm chasing the push button millions. The secret is that there is no overnight millions. There is no push button millions. Money just starts flowing in your checking account. You got to learn how to use the tools you have in order to create the opportunity that you seek.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes instead when something gets hard or difficult, we start looking to the left and right and go a different direction just because it got hard or difficult instead of just grinding through and doing the work.
Yeah. And so many people, we have these incredible tools at our disposal, but we treat them like New Year's resolutions, right? We use them for a week. They're awesome. They're incredible. You're like, wow, I'm getting great impact. And then you're like, oh, I forgot to push the buttons this week. And so we have to get ritualized about utilizing the tools that we have.
Yeah. Awesome. Number 4.
Number four is called controlling the clock, right? So what do the best sports teams in the world do? They know how to control the clock. They know even if Tom Brady's down in the third quarter by 21 points, he knows how much time exactly he has left. He knows how to control that thing. He knows if he should pass or run in order to speed up or collapse time. Well, we have every one of us as business owners, entrepreneurs, people transitioning out of the Navy, you all have what I call the rule of 168. And that means there's 168 hours in each week, right? And guess what? Mark Cuban and Oprah Winfrey and whoever your favorite, person to look up to, Ed Milet, name it. We all have the same 168 hours, but it's how effective we are at implementing what we call high income activities or high gain activities, right? What are the things that are really going to move you towards your outcome, towards the results and in alignment with that strategy that you have? We have to dial in those things and spend more time doing those things because we only have a finite amount of time, and time is the most important currency that all of us have.
Absolutely. All right. Last but not least, number 5.
Wrap it up, right? The trifecta. So the number 5 is what I call the trifecta. And this is really 3 things, and it could be the lack thereof 3 things, right? And you talked about this earlier, Joe, but number 1 is execution, right? I can't move forward unless I take the first step. I have to take action. I have to move towards my goals. So I could have the perfect mindset, the perfect strategy. I could be controlling the clock. I could know exactly what's in my toolkit. But guess what? If I create all of that and I don't take action on it, nothing happens, right? So I have to go forward. I have to create execution. The second part is course correction, right? So many people take that first step and they make a mistake, or they run into a problem, or or they have an outcome that they don't like from that step. And what happens is it shuts down so many entrepreneurs that they're afraid, they're paralyzed to pivot, to course correct, to go around the obstacle. And I really believe, Joe, that they say 65% of small businesses fail in 3 years. I believe that a lot of that has to do with the fact that people have a mission, they have an idea and a strategy, but they hit roadblocks, they hit obstacles, and they're afraid to course correct, right? They're so adamant about the path that they were on. And the best entrepreneurs in the world learn how to steer clear the obstacles and create pivots and changes inside their business.
Yeah.
So the last part of it, and I think you'll probably agree with this, is the lack of accountability, right? You could have all of those other pieces I talked about, but if we're not accountable to somebody, right, then what's going to, get me to go that extra mile or to put that extra bit of effort in, right? That's like if you had a gym buddy in the morning that was going to meet you at 5 a.m. for a workout, and you texted them and said, "Hey man, it's cold. I'm going to stay under the covers. We'll do this again tomorrow." They're likely to go, "Yeah, man, I'm cool. I'm with you. Let's do that." Like, I'll both sleep in, right? But if you were paying a trainer $100 an hour and you called that guy, texted him at 4:30 in the morning, you said, "Hey man, I'm going to sleep in. It's cold outside and warm under my covers." What's he going to tell you? He's going to say, "Get your ass out of bed. I'll see you in 30 minutes." Right? Or I'm charging you $100 either way. Either way, you're going to put in the pain. So you might as well get the results, right?
Yep.
That's what an excellent coach does. They keep you moving along. They keep you accountable to your goals. They keep you on track for what it is you want to accomplish. And they keep you from waddling off track and chasing shiny objects.
That's awesome. So, how does, can you talk a little bit about building a business that fits your lifestyle? And the reason I ask that is specifically, I think a lot of veterans, they get out of the military and they jump into something because they think they can make money at it, and they don't realize how it affects everything else in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will tell you that I base my lifestyle and I help my coaching clients realize that there's actually 5 different freedoms, Joe. Everyone's chasing the one freedom we know, which is what? It's financial freedom.
Financial.
Right? We all want financial freedom. How am I going to get that money? How am I going to get that money? The
Mm-hmm.
reality is the 5 roads of victory I just went over. When we start to focus on the personal side, we start creating geographical freedom, right? It's 2021. Almost everybody can do what they do from a remote location, from a laptop.
Right.
You can go and explore the world. You can go outside in nature. You can watch sunsets on the beach. You can watch sunrises on the mountains. Wherever you want to be, that geographical freedom is going to help you start to create and cognitively start to put more better leadership skills and qualities into your team, create a good culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next one would be time freedom, right? We all chase time freedom, but the secret to time freedom is it's controlling the clock and doing the things that you want to do when you want to do them. See, so many people think time freedom is like, I have all the time in the world. I'm going to go sit back on a beach and drink a margarita, and but the reality of it is, true high performers can't sit on the beach for more than 2 days without going nuts, right? They need something to keep them going, right? So time freedom is really more of, hey, spend as much time as you want on the beach, but then when do I want to do what I want to do? And I make it work inside of my rule of 168. So that's time freedom. And then 2 more important ones are the freedom of purpose, right? And you hear this a lot because people say, well, do what you love, do what you're good at, do what you're excited about. But then too many people will follow the money and then find themselves not doing something that they love because they're chasing money. The reality of it is, if you can create an outcome where your purpose and your finances are in alignment, you're going to have a 10 times happier, more content life because you're doing something that you feel good about, right? And that's super important.
And
then
you
last but
shift gears all the time. You kind of stay in the same motion the whole
correct
way.
Yeah, because then you're not like the Superman story I told you earlier, where I'm chasing, I'm being a realtor and I'm being a flipper. I never felt like I was my true self because I was becoming a different person every hour and a half, right? I'm chasing all these different directions. Now I'm content in who I am, right? I'm not afraid to tell people who I am, what I do, and why I do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now my purpose is in alignment, and I don't have to be somebody else for somebody else. Like, it's just what I want out of life. And your culture and the people that follow you are going to ride along with that because they'll believe it and it's true. And you don't have to make it, fake it till you make it or any of that kind of good stuff, right? You just achieve it because your belief is so strong and your vision is so strong.
Right.
And then last but not least on the freedoms is freedom of relationships. And this goes into that same thing, right? I get to decide who I want to spend time talking to, right? I get to decide who I want to spend time engaging with. And, mostly for me, it's my team, right? You're on my team, you're a coaching client. Like I truly love to see people win, right? So when my outcome is in alignment with their outcome, now all of a sudden we have freedom of relationships, right? We're working with people and we're only spending time, again, your greatest currency, with the people that you value the most.
Right. And take it another step. When you get to choose who your customers are, like this
Mhm.
customer is not in alignment with our methodology and how we do things. I
So
don't need the
powerful.
I don't need the money. I'm only going to pick the customers that I want to work with.
So powerful.
You can get to that point. It's all good.
Yeah, and from a transitioning perspective, one of the best pieces of advice that I can give is in alignment with what you just said, Joe, is being able to choose and pick who you work with because you're a better quality fit for them. There's no true professional, your doctors and your high-end insurance providers and your dentists, right? What do they do when you get to come, I mean, you start to work with them. They qualify you, they quantify you, they ask you a ton of questions, they figure out if you're good. If you went in there with the attitude that some people get, like in the real estate market, for example, that doctor's not going to work on you. He's going to say, you know what, we're not a good fit, man. I got plenty of other patients in the other room that need my help,
Yeah.
right? But they're professional about it, and they ask great questions. So if you're going to be in some sort of sales or service industry, understand that you get to decide who you're going to put up with and who you're not, regardless, especially if it's your business. And most of the time, the people that you are in alignment with are going to become your tribe. And you don't need the people who don't pay attention to what you're doing, or don't bring you business, or put you down, or the haters of the world, right? They disappear by product of you focusing on the right people.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about hiring a coach and having mentors.
Yeah, I have multiple coaches and I've had multiple mentors now for going on probably 7 or 8 years. And so I'm a huge believer in it. Obviously, I'm in the coaching industry, but I think when you hire someone, you have to make sure that, again, they're really paying attention to what it is that you seek, right? Or that they're really in alignment with helping you get where you want. I'm a big advocate of coaches who run big businesses, who are capable of running both. And they're, not to say that people who only coach aren't great. There's great coaches, just like there's great teachers. But for me, I love to see people who have success as a product of running a company, be able to respond back. So they're generally the kind of coaches that I'll hire. Unless I'm doing, specific coaches, like I'll hire coaches for nutrition. I'll hire coaches for, for just mental game, right? And I hire coaches for speeches. Like if I have to go do a speech, I have a speech coach. So I truly believe in having coaches for anything that you want to accelerate and create higher impact in that category.
And a lot of people have issue with, especially people from the military community, because paying for a coach.
Mhm.
And the reason, especially people from the military community, have issues with that is because everything's always been free. It's always given to them. The transition
Yep.
classes, a lot of companies, nonprofits are offering everything for free out there. How do you get across to folks from the military community that at some point you're going to have to pay and it's worth doing so?
Yeah, the best way I get it across is talking to people and helping them understand that the results that you seek are going to happen a whole lot faster, right? So a lot of times we're paying to cut down time. Like sometimes, people come to us and, you're going to be successful one way or the other. Is it going to take you 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? How long is it going to take you to master that skill? Where you can compress time, like we talk about decades into days. How do you compress that time? Well, hiring someone who's already been there, hiring someone who knows the roadmap, hiring someone who understands and can relate to your situation and help you accelerate through those speed bumps, right? Those course corrections and obstacles that are going to come in our way. A great coach is going to help you eliminate them faster so that you don't just get stuck, on your journey and then, eventually, take way too long, or, quit or back out, right? We want to make sure that we help you create that speed that you need in order to create the achievement in time.
Yeah. Now, if you're talking to somebody that's in the military, or they're on their way out, or they're in the middle of the transition, maybe somebody that just got out and doesn't really like where they landed,
Mm-hmm.
they're looking to do something in the world of entrepreneurship. They want to run their own show. They want to run their own company. They may or
Yep.
may not even have an idea at this point. What kind of advice would you have for them, where to go looking and where to seek help and how to get started?
Yeah, my favorite avenue for this is teams, right? Whether you want to be a real estate agent, you join a real estate team, or you want to be an insurance guy and you join an insurance team. I think there's so many opportunities out there to find great teams and be straight up with the owner or the rep from that team and say, hey, I want to learn what you guys have to offer and I want to create value for the team. And ultimately, I want to go do this on my own. And a truly, truly great team leader in any type of atmosphere like that is never going to want to hold their people down, right? I always have this saying that we say inside of our teams that, I want you to fire yourself. I want you to elevate and delegate and fire yourself so you get to the next level, right? I want everyone on my team taking my job, working their way up. And so I think teams are one of the best ways for people to do that on a budget because you can get paid along the way, whether it's commission or base, and you can learn something while you're doing it. Everyone coming out of the military has tremendous value in some way, shape, or form that they can bring to the table.
Right. Well, hey, Joe, you shared some amazing golden nuggets for us. I do give you a chance if somebody's interested in what you do. We haven't talked about your Legacy Blueprint podcast. So first, how do
Yeah.
we find your podcast? Anywhere podcast
Um,
found, but tell us a little bit about it.
Legacy Blueprint podcast has been up now for years. It actually transitioned. It used to be called the Flip King podcast because I was flipping houses back then, but we transitioned. I think there's might be over 100 episodes on there, but yeah, we're on iTunes and I believe we're on Stitcher and we're on it's syndicated. So we're on a few different platforms. They can search Legacy Blueprint podcast there.
Awesome. And how do we find you, Joe, if somebody's interested in your coaching services or any other things you do?
Yes, I offer a free discovery call to really sit down and talk to people, understand what their goals are. Again, what kind of A to B transition are they trying to make, and what's that gap look like? My team and I are very well versed at doing it and helping people really reach their true potential. So they can find us. Our website is actually elevatewithjoe.com, and it's super simple. It's how you get a hold of us.
Awesome. Well, hey, Joe, thanks for your service and thanks for sharing your story. Phenomenal success story. Looking forward to your future success and check back with you in a year or so and have you back on the show again.
Yeah, Joe, I appreciate your service as well. Thanks for having me on. I hope I brought some good value to the listeners.
Absolutely. All right. These two veterans are Oscar Mike.